Hey there, Andre here from PSD Box. In this video I want to talk a bit about how I made my 4K time-lapse that I published a few days ago on YouTube. And some of you asked me camera settings and that kind of things, and I want to talk a bit about how I made that, what I did wrong, and what I should have done. And before we go into it, I will play the time-lapse just so you can see it if you want it, and I'll show you the star trailing that I made with the same images. So here it goes. As you might know, I'm not a photographer. I just like photography, and this image was one of the few images, one of the few night images that I took, and I'm not really good at it yet. These are the images that I took. This is the whole series. The reason why I took so many, it's 250 images, is because I wanted to make that time lapse. But for star trailing, you don't need as many images, so with just about 100 pictures, maybe even less, you can do it. So I took 250 images. You can see the camera settings that I have here. I took exposures of 30 seconds at f3.5 at ISO 800. I know there are people that use other kind of settings, but these are the settings that I used. I'll have to, as I said, I'm not a photographer. I have to keep experimenting and finding the best settings that work for me and for my camera. And the objective that I'm using a Tokina 11 to 16 millimeters at 2.8. The reason why I used 3.5 is because I had a hard time focusing, and you can see, well, I used the higher f number, a closed aperture, because I wanted to get things a bit more in focus, and it's hard to focus when you're on nighttime. I was lucky that I had this windmill here, and that helped me focus. But even so, it was kind of hard to focus. Another problem that I had is, you can see the foreground is pretty dark. For a time lapse, for a video, is not really that much of a problem, at least in my opinion, because having a silhouette and having the stars there, it's not really that big of a problem. But if you want to make a still image like star trailing or a Milky Way image, usually what I've seen is that people use light painting to illuminate the foreground a bit, and or even increasing the exposure time and take a separate exposure just for the foreground, and then stack that on the image in Photoshop. I didn't do that. As I said, this is one of the few night photos that I took, so I need more practice, and I needed a bit more info before I got out shooting. It took me 3 hours to take all of this 250 photos. If you want to go out and take as many images as this ones, go out there with something to read or something like that, because it's very boring. But anyways, another thing that I did not do for this, and because I didn't know, is I should have taken a dark frame. You can see, if I zoom in here, you can see all of these spots around here. See this white spot, and maybe let's find another image. If we zoom in, especially on the dark parts of the image, see all of this spots here. These are not stars. This is just noise from the sensor. And apparently there's a technique to subtract this using a dark frame, which is taking a picture with the exact same settings, so exactly with the settings that I have here up on the left side, and closing or putting the cap on the lens, and then you take a dark image, and the only thing that you will see is this spots here, which the software later, you can use the software to subtract those on all of the images. The images that I have here are already edited, and I cropped them to have a 16:9 format, HD format, and I exported that on 4K format because I wanted to have that 4K format there on the time lapse. And let me show you the original image. I'll reset this. So this was the original shot. I did this in RAW, so I ended up with this. You can see we have a decent amount of noise, at least for my taste, but the part here is really dark. I didn't want to use a higher exposure or a higher ISO, so maybe that was a mistake, but I wanted to keep the quality of the image pretty much as it was. So I just increased then here in Lightroom. I increased a bit the exposure and the shadows. I decreased a bit the highlights because the stars were too bright. That's because of the ISO and also because of the exposure time. And then tweaked a bit the clarity, the vibrance, to give a bit more vibrance on the sky. And then I think I used a gradient. No, I didn't, for the sky. And this is the crop that I used. So then I decreased a bit the noise, and I didn't touch the sharpness at all. And this is the image that I took. Let me show you another image from the same spot where I went the day before I took this time lapse. So I went here. It's the same location on another close to one of these windmills, and you can see exactly how this looks, well, this place here. And this is another shot from another angle. And then let me show you the exact spot where I took the time lapse. So this is the same pond here, and I took the time lapse from here, from this part here, facing that way on the left. And that's how I took. But the night before we had we had problems with the moon rising. See that there? So you can take a time lapse with the or star photography using having a full moon. So that's why we came. Well, I went alone one day after that, and then we also made some experimenting with light effects here on this location. And this is how I made the time lapse. Let me go back to the library. Okay, so with all these images, you can do this in Lightroom itself. If you go to the slideshow, let's wait for these to load. If you go to the slideshow, there are some presets which you can download for free from the internet, where you can choose the time, the frame rate you want for your time lapse, and then you can export this as a video, and then you'll have the time lapse saved. Another thing that some of you might not know is that you can edit all photos at once. I didn't edit all of these images one by one. I just edited the first one, which is this one. Let's see if I can go back and undo my edit there. Okay, so I edited this one, and then I selected all of them, and then I click this button that says sync, and here I checked everything, and then I clicked synchronize, and then it edits all the photos with the same settings, because I did not have that much of a difference in lighting on the scene. If you do have light change, you will get flickering, which is that effect that, well, it's flickering and that's not looking nice. But you can use other software to make time lapses that reduces the flickering. But well, in Lightroom you cannot do that without a third-party script, I think. I'm not sure. Some of you asked me how I made the star trailing effect. I used the same images that I used for the time lapse, but I did not use all of them. You don't need all of them. There's too many of them. 250 images is too much for star trail. I just used 100, and maybe you can use even less. And what I did is I edited all my photos here in Lightroom, and then I exported those photos, and this is the folder where I exported all of these photos. You can see photos, and then what I do is just select the photos that you want, and I used star stacks, it's a free software that I used for this, and a lot of people use it. And then just drag your photos here, wait for them to be loaded, and here you can choose what kind of settings you want. For the blending, you can use gap filling or lighten, or use both of them and then stack the images. See those dots here, and here you can also open dark frames. So if you take a dark frame, you can add it here. It will add it here on the bottom, and then it will subtract all of this dark spots here, and it will reduce the noise a lot. And that's a really good technique, but I'll try it next time when I go out. So I think I used the gap filling, and then all you do is just click here, process images, and you can see the software goes through all of this image and it starts to stack them. You can also do this in Photoshop, just stack all of the images and change the blend mode of all of the layers in to lighten, sorry. And there's also a script, I think it's statistics, and with this one you can choose the stack mode to, for example, to maximum, medium, charge all of the files here, you add them here, and you click OK, and you will wait, and it will do exactly the same thing that you do here with the star stacks. I tried it and the result was not bad, but I don't know, well, I used this one. Okay, so you can see the effect that you get here. Of course, after making this, I added this image, I edited in Photoshop to fill some of the gaps that I got here. The reason why I got so many gaps is because I used a 10 seconds interval between the shots. So for each photo, I set the interval to, well, the exposure to 30 seconds, and then I waited 10 seconds and took another one. I think I should not have done that, but well, anyways, I think I should have set the interval to 0, just take 30 seconds of photo and then leave 1 or 2 seconds for the camera to process the images and then take another exposure, because that way you will not get this gap filling, even though you have this option here to increase the amount of gap filling that you get here, but oh, that's too much. So what you do here is choose a threshold until you only have this green light on the stars themselves, and increase the amount. And that way you fill the gap between this, well, here, let me see if I can zoom in. See the gaps there? This is not a good quality star trailing image, if you ask me, but anyways, for being the first one I make, I'm pretty happy with it. See all these points here. Okay, so here's where I would took another exposure for the foreground and have it nicely lit here, but well, I didn't do it. We'll do it next time. I already have the location, so I just have to wait for the sky to be clear, which will be in a few days. In a couple of days I will have clear skies, and I will go out and see what I can get. So this is how I took the star trailing image, and as I said, this is the first one I make, so I hope I will get better in the future. The next time I go out, maybe I will make a on location tutorial showing you how I do it, the location, how I set the camera and everything. But this was kind of a improvised shot here that I made. So that's all. This is all the images that I took, and this is how I made this star trailing and this time lapse. I hope it helped you, or just satisfied your curiosity of how I made it. And well, that's it for now. See you on my next video.